Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a role play. I have George Califat here. He's going to be my role play partner. And we're going to role play the objection coming from a seller who doesn't want to pay the buyer's agent commission because he's been watching the news and reading all this stuff in the media about the NAR settlement. And so he decided that the buyer should pay the buyer's agent commission and he doesn't want to pay it. And I am the listing agent. So George and I actually, thanks George for doing this with me again. If you haven't watched it, one of his interviews is on my YouTube channel. He's amazing. So
Thank you.
we're going to role play a listing appointment, a listing presentation where at the end of it, he's going to give me the objection of, I don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission because I heard blah, blah, blah. So first, before we actually start the role play for the viewers, let me give you a little bit of context. George is an expired listing. I called him, as you should be calling expired listings every day, and he said, yeah, I'm gonna sell, but I'm thinking of waiting until July because I know starting in July, I won't have to pay a buyer's agent commission. And so I've already wasted 6 months anyhow, another couple of months, and I could save a lot of money. And over the phone, I said to George, I completely understand. Obviously, you're looking to net the most money possible from the sale of your home, and you're thinking if you don't have to pay a buyer's agent commission, obviously that's gonna help you keep more money, and ultimately that's the goal, right? He said, yeah, that's right. This is how you would handle it over the phone. By the way, now, before July or after July, you just adapt the timing a little bit. And so ultimately, you want to be able to net the most money possible. He says, yes, absolutely. And so I then said to George, by the way, George, that option of not paying a buyer's agent commission is actually something that can be done right now. Commissions are negotiable. And so what I would like to do, since you definitely want to sell, and obviously that's an option now, the amount of commission and who you pay it to, we can discuss that. If that's the only reason why you would wait, let's go ahead and meet now. And during our meeting, we can discuss all your options in regards to the commission. And then if it all makes sense to you, we can go ahead and sell it now. How does that sound? He said, great. Okay, so that's how we ended up here, George and I. Okay. George, before I knock on the door and we start the listing presentation, do you have any quick thoughts about everything I said?
No, it sounds like a pretty typical expired call. That's
I
about
know
how they
you are
go.
calling
Yeah.
expired, right?
Yeah. Thankfully, I really haven't had too much pushback on that issue yet, but certainly that will be coming down the road. So I'm
Exactly.
excited to be getting out in front of it and having the opportunity to practice right here.
Yeah. And prepare. Absolutely. And for the record, George is an agent in Austin, Texas. So if you have any referrals for Austin, Texas, George Califat. And you've been in real estate for 4 months, George, 4 full months.
4 months. Yes.
And you currently have 4 active listings. Are they, I know you're calling expireds. Are they from expireds?
All expireds. Yes.
All expireds.
Mhm.
And just yesterday, when I called you to schedule this role play, you were at a closing.
Yes. Yes.
Your very first closing from the very first expired listing you took back. Was it in December or January?
It was in January. Yes. Yep.
January, yeah, and it just closed 2 months later. So congratulations. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
about all the amazing things you're gonna do this year. So, okay, I'm at your house now. Okay, George, you're an expired listing. You know the drill.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I knock on the door. You open the door.
Hi, Jackie.
Hey, George, thank you so much for allowing me to come out and meet with you today. I am really excited to have the opportunity to work with you in the sale of your home. And I know I have some important things that we want to discuss today. And before we get started, do you mind showing me around the property real quick?
Yeah, Jackie, absolutely. I'd love to show you all the things that we've done recently to get the property looking good and ready to sell.
Excellent. Okay, great. So he gives me a tour of the property, and then we settle at the kitchen counter. I like standing on my listing presentations because it puts me in a position of authority. So the kitchen counter is a good spot for that. They could sit on the bar stool. So we're there. And by the way, before you start a listing appointment, take out the listing agreement. This is not a listing agreement, but it's a piece of paper I have here. Completely filled out. The only thing that's blank on it is the price. Put it in on top of the counter where you're at with a pen on top of it. Leave it there. Okay. Just as a subliminal close. So we're settled at the kitchen counter, and I say, so George, I know when we spoke over the phone, you told me that you are really excited about moving to Austin, Texas. Yes?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
great city. So I'm excited for you about that. And George, you did say to me over the phone that you would like to be their ideal situation by mid-June. So we're looking at about 2.5 months from now. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jackie, that's one we were trying to get there earlier, but obviously our house didn't sell, so that is the time frame we're looking to get there. We have kids and want to get there and get settled before school starts again. So ideally, beginning of summer would be our time frame.
Got you. Okay, absolutely. And by the way, George, I want to assure you that is 100% possible. I am confident that we can get your home sold quickly and for top market price. Ultimately, that is your goal, right?
Oh, yes, it
Yeah,
is.
a
Exactly.
100%. And I know, George, as I guess someone who had their home on the market for 6 months, and obviously it didn't sell. I know that when I make the statement to you that I am confident 100% we can get this done, I'm sure in the back of your mind you're thinking, I would imagine that before you listed with your previous agent, you felt pretty confident that the house would sell at that point, and here we are, and it didn't happen, right?
Well, yeah, you're exactly right. And quite honestly, we only had one showing in 6 months.
Oh
So
my goodness.
confidence is not really something I have a lot of right now.
Wow. Yeah, no, look, I I can completely understand where you're coming from, George, with that. If I was in your situation, I mean, one showing in 6 months, I don't even know what to say about that. Obviously, I know because you asked me this over the phone before we set the appointment. What is it that I do like differently? Because bottom line is, I would imagine that from your perspective, you look at real estate agents and it seems like they all basically do the same things, and the same things are going to produce the same results. So to get the property sold, it's important for you to hire an agent that has some different marketing strategies to be able to find a buyer for this property, right?
Yeah, I mean, the last agent, like I said, we felt confident. They told a good story coming in, and we thought we were going to be able to sell it. Obviously, here we are.
Yeah.
But when I talked with you on the phone, you did bring a different level of confidence that I liked, and it really kind of just made me intrigued more than anything to at least hear what you wanted to say. Because ultimately, we have to sell the home, so we have to pick somebody. I kind of liked some of the things you said, and wanted to hear what it is that you
Yeah.
do differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, I want to get right to that, George, because I know how important that is to you. And when you look at real estate agents in general, George, and obviously you had this home for sale. When you bought this home and other experiences you've had with agents, there are two different types of agents out there, especially when it comes to working with sellers, which is the situation you're in. They're what we call passive agents, and then there are the active and aggressive agents. And And let me just explain. I'm sure you know what passive and active means, but in terms of real estate and the agent's activities, George,
Yeah.
passive agents is really how we can describe 99.9% of agents out there when they list a home, which is what you and I are discussing here today. They, number one, they'll put the property in the multiple listing service because obviously it attracts a lot of buyers agents and buyers. They also send the information on that listing to hundreds of websites. So your property is online, and obviously
Right.
a lot of buyers these days start their home search online, and that's critically important. Some agents, and I don't know if your previous agent did that or not, do open houses. Did your
Yeah.
previous agent do any open houses?
We had one the first weekend.
Okay, so they
He
did an
he
open.
told me that they don't really work, so he didn't find a lot of value in doing open houses, and
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
don't know that anything he did worked, to be honest. So,
well, yeah, I hear you. Well, and there's some truth to that statement on open houses, George. But also, and again, I don't know if your agent um, hired a professional photographer, did like a special video for your home, or created some beautiful brochures. These are the typical things that 99.9% of agents do. Yes,
right, yeah,
and
yeah,
and I call those passive marketing approaches because, George, think about this with me. When an agent does an open house, okay, so you got to get out of your house on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon. They stay in your home and they basically put signs around and wait for people to walk in.
right, yeah,
So it's a passive marketing approach because once they get the open house set up, they gotta sit around and wait for people to come in. Yes,
mm,
they put
yeah,
it online. Your home is on hundreds of websites. Great. What now? Now I sit and wait for people to send me, an email or inquire about the home. Put it in the multiple listing service. Okay, it's available to thousands of buyers agents. What do I do now? I'm waiting for them to hopefully bring in their buyers. And this is basically what all these marketing approaches are like. The agents put them in place and then they sit around and wait for a buyer to find them, in essence. And here is where I work completely different than all of these agents, George. Yes, I obviously actually do many of the things they do. I don't do open houses because most of the people that walk into open houses are buyers potentially. Some are not even buyers, they're just looking around. A small percentage are buyers, but the chances that they will buy the home they walk in are slim to none. They usually buyers agents, a lot of agents do open houses to attract buyers and sell them other homes. And then, George, if I may say, there are also some safety and security issues with allowing complete strangers to just walk through your home without knowing who they are, without asking any questions. And plus, it's ineffective. But everything else that agents, passive agents do, I do as well. But what really differentiates me from these agents is I am actively, George, looking for buyers and sellers every day. In fact, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. till 12 p.m., I am on the phone talking to 40 to 50 people a day about buying and selling real estate. So we're talking 250 people a week. And so you may be looking at me. I see you look a little like confused about
well,
that.
that's a lot of people. I mean,
Yeah, it is a lot of people. I mean, think about it, George. Do you really need an agent to put your house in the multiple listing service? Do you need a listing agent? And maybe you don't know, but the truth is you don't. There are companies out there that put homes in the multiple listing service for a flat fee of like a couple of $100. So you don't need me to do that for you. You don't need me to do an open house, take professional photos. All of the things that passive agents do are things you could do on your own. I
Yeah.
mean,
Okay.
right? I mean,
Yeah.
you may not want to, but could you do them? Yes, you could do them. See, what I do differently, George, and this is why I am confident that I can sell your home. I look for people who want to buy and sell every single day. That is my job. I mean, I would imagine that is what you are looking for in the agent that you will hire, right?
Yeah. It sounds like you go out and you're actually doing something to find buyers rather than, like you said before, the you called it passive approach.
Exactly. I mean, you're not going to spend 4 hours a day looking for people to buy and sell homes because you're not a real estate agent. That is my job. That's why you want to hire me. And here's the best part about this, George. I talk to all kinds of people. Number one, I I speak with my past clients' sphere of influence on a regular basis. I do give them information on properties that I list and updates on what's happening with the market. And I always ask them, who do you know that wants to buy or sell real estate right now? And I get referrals on a regular basis. I also call around my listings and sales. So when we list your home today, I am going to be calling your neighbors to let them know that we put your home on the market. And I'm going to ask them, do you know anyone that might be looking to buy a home in the area? And you may be thinking, is that effective? I mean, we're going to put a sign in front of my house. My neighbors will see it. They may, some of them, not all of them, but some of them may pass by and see the sign, but it's not top of their mind. When they get a call, which I will call them personally to let them know how many bedrooms and bath square footage and ask them directly. Now it's top of mind. If they know anyone just by passing by and seeing a sign, it's meaningless to them. And when they get a call from an agent with information, now they start thinking, okay, well, yeah, well, my sister wanted to buy and she was thinking about the area. And here's the best part about this, George. When I call your neighbors, and I'm gonna get phone numbers for 300 to 500 of your neighbors. Is it possible that I may find someone who knows somebody that they could refer to me that might be interested in buying your home? Sure, that's possible. And what happens very often also is that they say to me, well, I'm not looking, I don't know anybody that wants to buy around here, but one of my coworkers mentioned that they're looking to buy a house over there, like 30 minutes away. Now, I am a listing agent and I have many properties for sale that I actually cross sell all of these buyers. So I may be calling your area and I may find somebody that wants to buy over there. And when I'm calling over there, I may find somebody that wants to buy over here. So do you see that the more people I talk to, the better chance I have of finding buyers for every single seller like you that hires me to sell their house?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
I
not
mean, that
sitting
makes
around
sense.
and
That makes
waiting.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, George, I obviously also call expired listings every day. That's how you and I got speaking
Hmm.
this morning. I also call for sale by owners, and everyone that I speak with, if I don't set an appointment, I ask them at the end of the call, who do you know that wants to buy or sell real estate anywhere in our area that I can help? And that is how I talk to 40 or 50 people a day. And by the way, George, once we come to an agreement today and we put your home on the market, I'm going to ask you if you know anybody because you may know somebody that's interested in another property I have and vice versa. This is how I work. Now, you may be thinking, okay, great. Now this sounds amazing. So I should assume that you're the one that's gonna find the buyer, right? That's possible, right? I don't know if you that thought was going through your mind. I've had some sellers ask me
I
that.
was a little bit, I was curious how often that happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that does happen from time to time, George. And what I want to mention to you is this, and I know this will make sense to you because you're a smart guy. With all of the work that I do, I'm still one Jackie, and in our area, there are thousands of agents that are working with buyers at any given time. Obviously, not all of them are the perfect buyer for your home, but because there are thousands of agents in our area, and then, you know, over 1 million agents around the country, and I'm just one Jackie, the probability is that somebody else will bring in a buyer. And hey, we welcome that. It's not about who's going to bring the buyer. I mean, this is about getting your property sold and getting you to Austin by mid-June, the latest, and getting the home sold so you net the most money possible. That is the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
And I don't care who sells it. Yeah.
exactly. But it's possible that I may be able to find the buyer through all of the efforts that I put in every day and what I do. I just wanna you and I have this agreement. I know how important it is for you, George, to have an agent that's not just going to sit around and hope and pray for 6 months. I don't work that way. And obviously, once we find the buyer, regardless of where the buyer comes from, my job is to negotiate the highest price and the best terms for you. So you can walk away from the closing table with the most money possible. Okay, George?
Yeah. Okay.
Great. Do you have any
Right.
questions about marketing or what I do?
Honestly, Jackie, you covered more than I even knew that there was to cover. So I think I have a pretty good understanding now of how you work and what you're about. So I do appreciate that.
Excellent. Great. So, George, let's go ahead and talk about the price because I know how
Mm,
important that is to you as well. Yeah. And I
yeah.
know, yeah, you were previously, your home was listed for 425,000.
Yep.
Obviously, you didn't sell, but that's the price that you had set on the home. And in preparation for our meeting today, I prepared what we call a comparative market analysis. And I was very careful, George, in preparing this analysis of your home for you because in order for us to get your property sold, we need to look at recent sales right here in your area of homes that are comparable to yours, as comparable as possible. No two homes are exactly the same, but we want to look at homes that have the same number of bedrooms and bathrooms, square footage, condition is
Mhm.
similar. And if there are some differences, we could always make some adjustments up or down, which, by the way, George, I don't know if you remember when you bought this home, you did get a mortgage when you purchased it, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah. And the lender that you used sent out an appraiser to appraise the home when you bought it. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah. And I don't know if you looked at the appraisal or if you remember, I know it was many years ago, but this analysis and comparing recent sales is exactly how they came up with the appraised value of your home when you bought it.
Right. I do remember. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really very important that we look at these recent sales very carefully because not only it's in some ways going to determine whether or not the property sells, but also we need to be able to have it appraised because if we find a buyer and it doesn't appraise, well, then you can't close the deal. So anyway, I have this information here in front of me, George. So let's look at it together, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are actually three properties that I pulled up that I found very comparable to yours. The first one, George, is this one here at 123 Main Street.
Mm.
This is that corner property, two-story, yeah, like creamy light yellow color. Do you, are you
I
familiar with this home?
This one recently sold?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
actually sold. It closed about 5 weeks ago.
I do remember seeing it for sale. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And did you ever go into that property? Were you familiar with the interior of the home?
Nah, not quite. No,
Mhm.
I didn't.
Yeah, there are actually some pictures here. You can take a look at them.
Mm.
It does look in terms of condition, similar to your home, very good condition, very well taken care of. You could see that it was a 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath, about 3,000 square feet, 2910 approximately, which is very similar to your home. So a lot of the features of this home are very similar. So this is an actual very reasonable comparable for your property. And George, they actually closed 5 weeks ago for 385,000.
Mm,
Yeah.
385. Okay.
385, yeah, and they were asking 395 and they ended up selling for 385. Okay.
Mhm.
And then we have this second one here, the second comparable. Time out of the role play for a minute. I'm just gonna go quickly through the price for the sake of
Yeah.
time, but it's the same, would be back in the role play. Same scenario. This address, this home, are you familiar? This is the bedroom. I want engaging you. And George, this second one here, closed for 391. That's a little better, right?
It's getting closer, Jackie.
It's
It's
getting
getting close.
closer.
You started
Absolutely.
getting me worried there when you said 385.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this one's 391, so obviously that's encouraging.
Yeah.
And then the last one that I looked up, and this one, George, it went under contract about 3.5 months ago, and they just closed, I think 10 days ago is the
Mm,
closing date that it
okay.
shows here. Yeah. And as you could see also is very similar. And this one closed at 395. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
so we have this range from 385 to 395, and these are all recent sales. So George, based on this information, what price are you thinking that we can put on your home so your property can be the next one to sell?
Well, Jackie, I mean, based off of these 3 sales here that you gave me,
Mm-hmm.
it looks like it wouldn't be more than 400,000. I mean, we're 385, 391, 395, so somewhere in that range would probably be the best pricing scenario,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah,
But what one thing I noticed, like I told you, once we took the house off the market, the last time we painted the house, we
yes,
did some other things that made it look nicer and cleaned up.
yeah.
So what I think, I know we had it listed a little bit higher the last time, and I think we could probably do somewhere, above this, maybe 415, 420.
That's an option, George. Yeah, that's an option. And there are some dangers of pricing it higher when we start, higher in terms of comparing it to the three properties that I shared with you. And also, George, I want you to consider this. We didn't cover this in detail, but there are 5 other homes for sale in your area. And so the recent sales are critically important because an appraiser is going to look at that information, but also the homes that are currently for sale are technically your competition, because a buyer that wants to buy a home similar to yours, they're going to look at the other properties. So we want to make sure that your price strategically, so that when they compare it to the other homes that are currently for sale, they will choose yours. And what tends to happen, George, and I could actually show you some statistics around this, the homes that are priced well, and what I mean by priced well, they're priced based on recent sales, not based necessarily just on what other people are asking. Because I mean, somebody could ask, 600,000, and it's never going to sell, so you can't really base the price on that. But priced well would be based on the recent sales, and the homes that sell the fastest or go under contract the fastest, the many times, possibly even receive multiple offers, are the ones that are priced closest to what they will realistically sell. And so, by the way, I can't promise you a multiple offer situation, but properties sometimes that are placed on the market below market value. So let's say the lowest sale price that's similar was 385. If a seller came in at 375, they are likely to be in a multiple offer situation. Why? Because it creates a lot of interest. Well, I mean, imagine, buyers are looking at it, the age, and they're like, wow, the recent sales, and this one's 375, and it looks beautiful, and they see all of the information, and they run here. And then you get a lot of interest in the very beginning. And when you're in a multiple offer situation, George, I mean, you could end up selling this home for even above the highest one that sold, because buyers, if you get 3 or 4 offers on the property, we can go back as a negotiating strategy and just say, we're in a multiple offer situation, bring your highest and best. And nobody knows what anybody else sold, and now they want it. And this is how properties end up selling for above even sometimes the recent sales. So, and this type of situation that I'm explaining to you, it doesn't happen when properties are priced, let's say in this case, if we go with 415 or 420, it's an option, but it's not going to generate that initial interest on your property. And then what happens, George, unfortunately, is when a home sits on the market for several weeks or several months without selling, naturally, because the days on market is available, the buyers can see it, buyers agents can see it as well, and they start to wonder, what's wrong with that property? I mean, why hasn't it sold? And it's not because there's anything wrong with your home, it's simply because it's been sitting on the market longer than it should. So
Well,
yeah.
okay. I mean, what that makes sense, and maybe you answered my question. But where I was afraid of getting was because you had mentioned before we had one that sold at 385, originally listed at 395, so they came down $10,000.
Right.
I don't have that much room to come down. So my thought was, well, what if we listed higher, give us some room to negotiate,
Right.
and then we would land at my magic number. But from
Right.
what I hear you saying, that's actually not the best strategy, potentially.
It really is not, George. It could just cause your home to sit on the market longer than it needs to. And also, I want to assure you that when your home is priced right and it's priced well, you don't need to leave a lot of room for negotiating. This may be it's a misconception that you need to be able to come down, but like I said, properties that are actually underpriced, the market will catch up with the price. You can't really undersell a property, because if it's below market, the activity and the interest is going to end up bringing that price up. So, which is really like you don't need to negotiate at all. You're going to be negotiating up, not down.
Mhm.
So, based
Okay.
on all this information, George, what price do you want to put on the property?
Okay. Well, you did a good job explaining that. Um,
So,
so I
how
think,
much should we price
yeah,
it at?
it looks like to me with 395. So we have two at, maybe 395 is a safe number.
I think 395 is a really good number, George. So I'm gonna write this. I'm writing it on the listing agreement. So we're gonna go with 395. And George, this is the actual listing agreement. You could see all of the information here. And I just need your signature right here.
Okay, got it. So, Jackie, before we go any further, I did mention, I know I heard, you kind of explained a little bit about commissions previously. I do not want to pay a buyer's commission. That's why I was thinking about waiting until later on.
Right, right.
So we don't have any buyer's commission in this agreement. Is that correct?
Buyer's agent commission, you mean,
Yeah,
right?
buyer's agent commission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, we do not. And as you could see here, it was filled out before I got there. My commission is 3%, and that's the only commission that's part of this agreement. So I just want to put your mind at ease with that. And also, George, I want to mention to you that it is possible that when an offer comes in on your property, there's a possibility that as part of that offer, there would be a request to pay, I don't know what it would be, but a certain amount of a percent or a dollar amount towards the buyer's agent commission. And I know you said you don't want to do that. And I'm explaining this to you ahead of time, George, just so you can have the proper expectations and know what could happen, right? That can
Okay.
actually happen. And what I suggest, George, is that we make that decision of what you want to do with that request when it happens. And what I mean is this, George, I know that the reason why you don't want to pay a buyer's agent commission is because obviously you want to be able to walk away from the closing table with the most money possible, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Austin's an expensive place to move. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're thinking from your perspective, wait a minute, if the less commission I pay, the more money I get to keep. So if I don't pay a buyer's agent commission, that's that great. It's more money in my pocket. So it sounds to me, George, that it's not so much about paying or not paying the buyer's agent. It's about what you're gonna walk away with, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
because ultimately, George, I think I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's most important to you? Is it to definitely not pay any commission to a buyer's agent, or is it to walk away from the closing table with the most money possible?
Yeah, ideally, it would be to walk away with the most money possible. And
Absolutely. Yeah. So how much you net out of the sale is really what my job is, to negotiate the highest price, best terms, so you could walk away with the most money possible, right? And
right.
so think about this, George, hypothetically speaking. I know we briefly talked about multiple offers, and as I mentioned, I can't promise you that. But obviously, I'm going to do everything in my power to maximize the exposure on your property. So every buyer that is buying in this area in your price range knows that your home is for sale, that all of the top agents in our area know that your home is for sale, because that's what we need to do here in order to sell it for the most money possible. But let's hypothetically say you receive two offers on your property, okay?
Okay.
and you receive one offer with zero commission to buyer's agents. Now, you'd be happy about that because you're thinking, I shouldn't have to pay a buyer's agent commission. The buyer should pay. So you're looking at that offer, you're saying, okay, yeah, this is pretty good.
That would
And
be a good
then,
offer.
right, exactly. And then, George, you get a second offer. And that second offer is requesting that a commission concession is made to pay the buyer's agent commission. And let's just, for the sake of this conversation, they're requesting $6,000. Okay.
Okay.
And that second offer, George, is 10,000 higher than the first one, not asking for any agent commission. So in essence, even after the 6,000 goes towards the buyer's agent commission, you still end up with 4,000 more. And all of the other terms are equal. I think I know which offer you're going to take, right?
Yeah, there's one that's going to make me more. Right.
Exactly.
And I
Obviously,
see your point.
yeah. So it's really not about paying or not paying or how much. It's really something that we're going to look at it together when an offer comes in on your property. And obviously our goal is, again, negotiate the highest price and best terms for you. Okay.
Okay. So what you're asking is that we don't make a decision on that right now, today.
Yeah, we don't need to make a decision. However, George, I want to ask you this question. Based on what you would net, this is a hypothetical question. If you were to pay, let's say my commission is 3%, completely hypothetical because commissions are negotiable. If would you be willing to pay a 3% commission if it nets you the most money possible? Would you be willing to do it to a buyer's agent?
I think so. Yeah.
So with your permission, we could actually, again, this is not a commitment on your part of paying any certain amount, but it actually may help the buyers because the buyer's agent is going to be paid either by the buyer or the seller. And so if you're agreeing to make a concession towards closing costs that the buyer could possibly use towards whatever they want in terms of closing costs, whether it be buyer's commission or any of their other closing costs, it could financially for the buyer make your property more attractive, easier for them to be able to actually purchase it. So is that something that you'd be willing to do?
So you're saying if I'm willing to pay a buyer's agent commission, you could help negotiate with the buyer's agent on getting the best offer that may include uh, some concessions towards
Yeah,
that?
what we can do is actually say, I could put a note in the multiple listing service that the seller is willing to pay up to 3% in buyer's closing costs slash concessions. And we'll just leave it at that. And that's going to be something that will be negotiated when the offer comes in based on the price and the terms and what they're asking for. So I think that gives you the the best option to opening up the market to some buyers that may not have the financial ability to pay their agent, and they could use the closing those that 3% for whatever they want, provided you net the most money possible. How does that sound?
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that the goal is to get the most exposure possible. So
Absolutely, because the
okay.
most exposure, George, as you know, is what's gonna get your home sold for the highest possible price. And ultimately, I know that's what you're looking to do and get to Austin by the end of June. So let's go ahead and get the paperwork signed. George, so I can go to work for you. We could get this done. I just need your signature right here.
Thank you. Signed.
Signed, done. Thank you, George. All
Thank
right.
you.
So before we wrap up this video, I want you to just from an agent's perspective, you're in my training, so you're a listing
Mhm.
agent. You're focused on prospecting, making your calls every day. What did you pick up from this role play that you feel is useful for you and will help you in your business?
So there's a couple things, and not even before I address like the specific language and way you talk about buyer's agent commission, there's a couple things that I picked up, which I thought were you explained very well regarding pricing, because
Mm.
I get that you can explain comps as best as possible, and the seller's still like in some other land with their pricing. And I really liked how you softly explain the the advantage to pricing it well or pricing it right, and not worrying about having to negotiate down on price, because I always hear that, well, we should leave some wiggle room. But when you said, well, when you price the property right, there's not a lot of reason to negotiate because the market catches up to that. You can't ever undersell a property.
Mm.
It's going to sell for what the market requires. And that might mean three people want to buy the property versus one, depending on where you're priced. So I really liked how you came at it from that perspective. Definitely going to
So
rewatch
negotiate
this.
up, not down.
Yeah, yeah, negotiate up. Now, if we're priced right, you don't have to worry about coming down anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, yes, but then in regard to the new way we'll be negotiating with buyers concessions, I thought, or whatever we call it, buyers.
I know. We got to be
Yeah,
very careful with this language, right? Even as I'm role playing with you, I'm like,
yeah.
yes, it's concessions to they will use it for whatever they want. Yeah, exactly. Go on.
I think the most important thing is you said, I'm just trying to set an expectation for you. I don't know if this is going to happen. I have no idea, but I want to set an expectation that this can happen so you're not surprised. And then you go back to what's more important, paying a commission or netting the most money, right? That's always bringing it back to that, getting your mindset adjusted to, I really don't care about a commission. I just want to get the amount of money that I want to get out of this sale, and helping them not focus on one thing and focus on what we're actually trying to achieve. And
Exactly.
you kept doing a good job of bringing me back to that point. um, and then of course just the depth that you explain, and you bring in so many examples and scenarios to help explain it. So like I just felt really informed, and I already knew what we were talking about, and it's still, I was like really enlightened and informed with it. So I can imagine somebody who is not an agent and actually a homeowner would have a very clear understanding and picture, and just know what to expect. And I think that's how you get listings, right? Is by basically the seller already anticipating and understanding what it's going to be like to work with you before they ever do it. And in this role play that we just did, I feel like that would be, you would be getting the listing here because I felt very comfortable.
Wait a minute. I did get the
You
listing
did get the
right
listing.
here.
I just don't have anything to sell. So
Yeah. And you know what? By the way, that line, what's more important to you? Is it to not pay a buyer's agent commission or to walk away with the closing table from the closing table with the most money possible? It There's a language pattern, but this is very effective and it's the truth in this case. It's a level shift. So they're focused on whatever you could use this to handle a lot of different objections. And so all of a sudden they're like, no, it's not about that. It's about this. So now we're talking about something different. We're talking about netting them the most money possible. And now we can expand and focus on that, and they understand, well, yeah, that's not what this is about. That's what it's about. So, yeah,
Mhm.
could be used in a lot of different objections. Any final words of wisdom, George? You're complete?
I'm good. I think this was really good and it's gonna be useful. I'm excited to watch it again.
Thank you so much, George, for taking the time again. George Califat, Austin, Texas. We did an amazing interview with him a few months ago. Not even, it hasn't been that long on my YouTube channel. The listing, what you talked about on that interview is first week prospecting, you listed and expired. Well, you just
Yes.
closed on it last week. If anybody's looking for an update on what happened, and you got 4
Yes.
new active listings. So great job, George. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jackie.
By the way, everybody watching, put your comments, questions below. And I appreciate you watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.